Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
Right, it's just a minute after 2 p.m. Central African time, and what a beautiful Wednesday it is. It is Wednesday, the 15th of May. Welcome to Nedbank Business Watch. Today's show is just going to be as beautiful as today is. Am I right, Tobeni?
It's going to be a beautiful program, so do stay tuned for this episode of a Nedbank Business Watch.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that everyone's having a good day, because we have quite the lineup today. We get an economist perspective into the major story making waves in Eswatini's business community. Sanele Sbia will join us via a video link to discuss the significant milestone on securing 400 million emalangeni through the 4 billion bond listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We'll explore what this confidence boost means for Eswatini's economy, as well as the substantial responsibilities that come with such a listing. Another development we are tracking on the show today looks into a recommendation by the Industrial Development Company for SMEs. IDCE says governance takes center stage in business operations. It is important that there's, a certainty of, the success of small and medium enterprises, that it becomes paramount now more than ever that there should be governance. The provision of essential support as well as guidance to SMEs becomes very, very crucial. We will delve into it deeper with our business journalist Nelson Langamanda, just to explore the implications of governance in SME development. All of that today over the next hour. Stay with us.
Yes, and in our Nedbank session, we will be joined by Nozibusiso Dembe, who is the treasury dealer at Nedbank Eswatini. We're focusing on Nedbank investment solutions. We want to find out what investment options does Nedbank offer, and how frequently do these investment products pay interest. Stay tuned for this segment. And later on the program, she will give us the latest on stock markets. U.S. stock index futures were little changed on Wednesday ahead of crucial consumer prices data that will test the recent market rally, which is fueled by hopes of monetary policy easing. She'll analyze these changes later. Do stay tuned. For now, let's go to business news.
Nedbank can stand a chance to win a 5,000 emalangeni trolley dash. To qualify, do any of the following. Tap or swipe your Nedbank card for purchases a minimum number of 10 times in 2 weeks, or send cash to any local cell phone number a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. Or withdraw cash using Nedbank Cashback at Till at any OK Foods outlet a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. It could be you, so start today. For more information, please visit nedbank.co.nz, call or send us an email. See money differently. Nedbank.
On our first story, the Industrial Development Company of Eswatini has distributed dividends of over 25,000 emalangeni to its 25 million emalangeni, to its shareholders for the financial year 2022-2023. Now, speaking at Happy Valley Hotel, the chairperson of the board, Dumisani Gunene, said for 2 successive years, IDCE has been able to declare a dividend to shareholders, even at an increasing value compared to the previous year, representing 5.6% of the company's earnings per share for the financial year.
The Eswatini National Provident Fund received the biggest chunk in the dividends, being over 16 million emalangeni. Government received over 9 million emalangeni, NED received 400,784 emalangeni 19 cents. The chairperson of the IDC board says the company now has a huge asset base.
Indeed, this marks an era which indicates that ITC has turned the corner. This is demonstrated by achievements, supported by a stronger balance sheet, boasting of an asset base of 1.2 billion emalangeni, sustained growth in return on equity, increased stake in Peak Plaza from 45% to 100% in 2023, increased funding for the Lucid Farm projects to the value of over 170 million and several other measurable strides towards development of our fiscals, industrialization and job creation. Looking ahead, Honourable Minister, we are optimistic about IDC's prospects, which are bedded on strong strategic objectives, belief of fulfillment of the company's mandate and delivery of the company's objectives. We are committed that if we stick to our mandate, we will be able to achieve. If we deviate from our mandate, then we're going to suffer, because mandate determines and basically calls and gives you grace to implement what you've got to implement. But the moment you get excited and diversify, you lose that grace and you basically lose the returns on your focus and your efforts.
The Minister for Finance, Nel Rickenback, has commended the company.
Payments of dividends is a requirement of most of our parastatals. This declaration is an inspiration to the Eswatini government that IDCE is a viable entity that continues to deliver on its mandate. The company remains a critical vehicle to industrialize the country, to positively impact job creation and assist in import substitution. These are some of the key deliverables that this economy is required to deliver. Dividends are paid from hard-earned profits that we witness today is a strong indication that IDCE has recorded real organic growth. As government, we encourage IDCE to increase participation in other sectors such as mining, energy, and the construction of factory shells, as this is a catalyst to foreign direct investment, which His Majesty the King is actively advocates for on all forums.
The chairperson of IDCE says the company has not been able to pay dividends for the past 19 years. Eswatini National Provident Fund owns 61.95% shares at IDCE. Government is at 34.98%. Nedbank 1.55% of shares. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzilisa, Ezulwini.
The Minister for Finance, Nel Rickenback, says government is managing debts well and will ensure that their 400 million emalangeni debt or any other that will come from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange as 4 billion rands has been listed on the stock market. The minister said this when responding to a question on what impact will this money have on the country's debt stock, as monetary organizations require that the public domestic debt should not exceed 20% of the gross domestic product.
The government of Eswatini has been lauded by different sectors for being able to diversify her debts and listing a bond under the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, which has since paid off. The Minister for Finance, Honourable Nel Rickenback, says government is in a good standing to pay off the debts.
Now when it comes to this actual listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange that we have done, as one will recall, we started this process more than 2.5 years ago, took a bill through Parliament, reduced from a 5 billion ceiling to a 4 billion ceiling, if one recalls, but we got the approval, so it is now law that we can raise a 4 billion emalangeni on the, 4 billion rands, ZAR on the South African Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and that meaning that we can now run with that. So what we have is, but by us being able to do that, I think what is quite strategic is, number one, keeping in mind that the rand is linked to the emalangeni. So what it was raising rands, it's very similar to raising money in our domestic market rather than a foreign market, where we have the exchange rate fluctuations sometimes having a very big negative impact on, in fact, mostly. In fact, we normally slide about 6%. If you look at the 20-year average, about 6% or we slide to the US dollar as an emalangeni. So by us taking rands, we've hedged that risk, and the risk is no longer there. It's priced in, but it is the risk has now been done away with. So in a sense, replacing domestic. At the same time, government is really trying to push economic growth in Eswatini. So by us reducing the amount of debt that we're going to be looking for on the domestic market by raising it now on the South African market means that the liquidity in Eswatini should be able to improve, meaning that there's more money in the fiscus and government not mopping it up, meaning the banks and institutions are more than likely going to be placing up money with the private sector and hence driving economic growth.
The Honourable Minister for Finance says government is aware of the different risks that come with the debt.
We're always in that same space you're referring to. If we do things or our risk goes up as a country, we get punished in the domestic market as much as we do in international market. It is just now another market to be sensitive to. Any stock exchange listing has got an increased sensitivity, so you are right. There is a sensitivity towards that. As a country, as you will recall, we have recently, Moody's has looked at our rating and has given us, instead of a stable rating, they've given us a positive rating, which means that if nothing negative happens in the next few months, I will actually start getting upgrades or an upgrade from Moody's, meaning that in general, we are starting to do the right thing. When your ratings are starting to move in the right direction, keep in mind there's only 5 countries on the continent that are moving in the right direction from a ratings point of view with Moody's. It means that theoretically we are doing the right things from a macro fiscal point of view and even a political point of view to be able to mitigate those risks. Those risks are there, and we need to be sensitive as a country constantly to what our image looks like on the outside.
According to the Ministry of Finance, the country's domestic debt currently stands at 17.64 billion emalangeni, which is equivalent to 18.83% of the country's gross domestic product. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminko Sinzinisa, Mbabane.
Right, that is how we mark the end of our business news segment. We go for a net break. We connect virtually with economist Sanele Sibia right after the break.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Welcome back to the program. The Minister for Finance, Neil Reichenberg, says government is managing debts well and will ensure that the 400 million emalangeni debt or any other that will come from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, as the 4 billion rands has been listed on the stock market. The minister said this when responding to a question on what impact will this money have on the country's debt stock, as monetary organizations require that the public domestic debt should not exceed 20% of the gross domestic product. Let's connect with Sanele Sibia, our economist, for more on this development, just to, get a broader sense of the huge responsibility that comes with this listing. Mr. Sibia, a very good day to you. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon, by the way. Quite the development happening financially for the country, and a lot of excitement, a lot of confidence for investors as well. But maybe let's start by looking at the economic benefits that come with such the development. How do you foresee this bond maybe listing positively impact into Eswatini's economy in both the short term and the long term?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ngumalo. Thank you for having me, and apologies that I had muted my mic. So I, for one, am actually a strong believer in markets, Numalo. So the fact that we have since listed a bond on the markets and it seems to be really taking shape and picking up with both investors locally and international. So for me, I think there was a pretty good move on the side of the government of Eswatini, purely because, once we start thinking along the lines of markets, then we are changing our thinking. It means we are changing our thinking as a country in terms of development finance and development assistance. So we are moving towards a more market-driven type of market. So that comes with a lot of benefits. One of the benefits is the fact that we have to be efficient with our spending, and we have to rationalize our we have to rationalize our we have to rationalize our expenditures and in terms of the projects that we are going to invest the money in, purely because this money will have to be repaid at some point. And one thing that I like about bonds is it does give this fiscal space in terms of the repayments, because the way bonds function is you pay the interest over time, and then when the bond matures, then that's when you repay the full principal. So that's a good thing. It's going to take a bit of weight from government in terms of the fiscal space in the short to medium term. But we need to be cognizant of the fact that eventually we will have to have the entire, at this point in time, it's 400 million. And as we continue increasing up to the limit, we then are going to be required to have that entire amount. And then another note, Numalo, is if you would note what has been happening, more especially with multilateral partners. And if you remember France, there was this heated debate within, Africa, the global South, and your huge multilateral institutions, which include the World Bank, the IMF, and quite a number of development partners, where, there was this very strong argument to say Africa sits as spectators. There's no African board member, and the interest rates that we attract are way above markets at times. Yet, countries like Eswatini, we've shown that we are quite good at paying our debts. We've not defaulted, not even once, on any of our debts. I don't remember in the history of the kingdom where we've had to file for sovereign defaults. So I think in terms of allowing the fiscal space to really breathe in the short to medium term, and allowing us as a country to have a bit of flexibility in terms of what we use the money for. For example, this money can go towards paying areas because it's money that's been raised in the markets. So it doesn't come with any conditions. It's not like going to a multilateral institution to look for money, probably to build a bridge. But this is money that comes and goes into the fiscus. Though that said, it also does give us a burden as a country to make sure that we use the money effectively and efficiently to catalyze our very own development as a country, to make sure that as a country we grow, right? And the other thing that I like, Mr. Numalo, which for me is actually the best decision ever made by the government of Eswatini, is diversifying the market and getting money from outside the country means we are taking pressure off of the domestic financial institutions, because one thinks of a situation where government has, as we speak, around 17 billion borrowed within and raised within the domestic economy. Then in the situation where government actually has cash flow problems and defaults on some of the payments, imagine of the impacts that would have on our domestic financial sector when there's an entire 17 billion that needs to be written off. So the diversification of the portfolio also bodes well for the domestic financial markets and takes away that risks that we've always been warning against, to say, the more you continue increasing domestic borrowing, then you are putting the entire sector at risk. So I think this is a good move. And the fact that we've gone to markets gives me the inclination that we have changed our thinking around how we're going to develop the country. And now we are going to push market-based type of growth and market-based type of programming as a country, and moving away from the official development assistance where we tended to depend more on donor funding, but now we're moving towards market financing, which actually would drive us to longer term growth and sustainability, because we'd also have to think and implement our activities as though the markets would do, because now, talks of any negative issues within the country would actually affect our ability to raise that money, Mr. Nzimalo. I think let me put it there for now.
Yeah, right. Two things I'm picking up from what you're saying, which, you propose as really, really key. The first one is that we rationalize. The second one is that we maintain our track record of being a sovereign state. It is very, very important. You spoke on, our multilateral relations that we have, which also take from, the good track record that we have. Let's get into that, managing investor expectations. We know that there will be quite a lot of expectations, and as we want to have a lot of investment into the country, we've seen, the many developments that have been happening in recent time. What strategies will be put in place maybe to manage the expectations of the investors who have shown confidence in Eswatini's economy through this bond?
Thank you, Nzimalo. I think what we have to look into as a country is the fact that, listing on the market has actually put us on the international stage. So now we have investors who are going to worry what is going to happen in Eswatini. So that means right now, the country needs to be vigorous in terms of our growth numbers and controlling our macroeconomic aggregates, because those are all the indicators that investors look into to see whether they are whether they can invest in a country or not. So this actually puts additional pressure on the government to ensure that, we are able to grow the economy, so that we keep our, you keep investors there, because when the investors see that the economy is growing, then that says to them, communicates to the investors that, the potential for default in this market becomes relatively low. And while at the same time, Mr. Nzimalo, when we are looking at the fact that we have listed a bond, increases in the GDP actually ensures that we stay within the feasible limits of the debt to GDP ratio. So I think pertinent right now would be ensuring that we really ensure that the GDP grows, such that even when we continue subscribing more or offering more in terms of the bond, we are able to actually stay within the very favorable limits. Because, when your GDP goes up, then as a proportion, as well, the debt should be going down. So that's one of the few things. And then also as a country, we've got to ensure that we do not get downgraded in terms of, these international rating agencies, because that again would send shock waves. So that means we really just do need to ensure that we keep our house in order. That is why I'm saying, Mr. Nzimalo, in my view, this will force us as a country to work better and to work effectively, more so to avoid such mishaps and, avoid markets not taking us seriously.
And I suppose, one of the biggest things that, Eswatini ought to do with this listing is, enhancing the business climate, just the local business climate in Eswatini as well. What steps would you suggest should be taken to enhance the overall business climate in Eswatini to maybe sustain and grow investor confidence as well, beyond just this bond listing?
No, thank you, Mr. Nzimalo. Listing in the markets and, somehow boards with private sector-led growth. So those are the things that we need to ensure as a country that we are able to grow the private sector. So one of the ways we are going to grow the private sector is through efficient financing. We will need to recalibrate the finance, make sure that, companies that need to grow are able to grow. And as a first step, I would say, for the minister, this money that has come in has to go towards settling areas, because once you settle areas to suppliers, then you allow them more liquidity, and they're going to be actually spend more of that money and increasing the multiplier effect. So as a first step, we need to clear our areas, because that also just says, if you have areas, that means your cash flow situation is not good, and that's something that investors will not look into very well. And then going forward, we need to make sure timely payment of all invoices. So that's the first step. And then secondly, we need to increase the business environment, make sure that we are able to start a business very early. We could even think around the taxation issues. We could think around, catalytic infrastructure investments, where we really just build Eswatini to be this stable economy with, a country where you're going to get, when you're going to get power, you're going to get good roads, your fuel is relatively stable. So once we get those macroeconomic dynamics into a good space, then we are going to grow the economy and increase access to finance and improve access to finance. So that means making the guarantee schemes and quite a number of the schemes that the government has in place, because I mean, we do have these schemes in place, but what we need to do is to make sure they're accessible and the Maswati are able to use them, so to channel and fuel business growth.
And I suppose a lot of the recommendations that you are making, government wants to, take heed of that. Maybe Business Eswatini wants to take a listen to that as well and, look at some of these recommendations. But would you add a few more, messages that you would like to convey to stakeholders maybe and the broader business community about this listing?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo. So for me, I would say, this communicates that the government wants to support markets and business and the private sector should actually take advantage of that. That means we have a government that is serious about private sector-led growth. But at the same time, to the government, one would have to caution to say that, once we've listed in the market, this issue of cost overruns on quite a number of capital projects, we need to do away with that. When we're talking of efficiency, markets love efficiency. In as much as markets love money, but they also love efficiency. If we are going to raise money within markets, we need to be more efficient, make sure we implement projects within the right space of time. So that will be the first and foremost that I would worry about, and we need to ensure that we're able to do that as a country. And then going forward, we need to ensure that we are investing in areas that are going to improve the business confidence and improve the overall growth in the economy. So that means we need to ensure that we are dealing with the bottlenecks that private sector has identified. And there's always that enterprise report, which is always tabled by the central bank, and access to finance is actually at the very top of those. So we need the government to take that into strides and work with that. And probably, as another scheme, maybe government should consider a collateral scheme, type of scheme where we are able to have access to finance very close to zero, where you are not required to have quite a huge amount to put in as well. So we just need to make sure that the business environment thrives, and we need to open up sectors of the economy, like, for example, make sure that it's easy to go into any other business in the economy. That's one of the things that we need to do as a country. Like, for example, the broadcast media, that's a space we've not opened into as a country, and internet, because markets love information. So a country has to be able to project information out there. We need to be easy in sharing information. And the fact that we have a closed media and broadcasting space that somehow doesn't work well with markets. Markets love free information. So opening up such spaces would improve the business environment greatly. And the government had a very good plan at some point in time, which right now it's an issue of implementing that plan, where the government builds the backbone infrastructure and they own the backbone infrastructure, so that when businesses want to venture into the broadcast space, they would simply use that infrastructure. So as a country, we need to also start implementing the good things that we have on paper. And then also, for the citizens of the country as well, we need to now start taking up opportunities. And it is incumbent on the government to make sure that we have opportunities to take up. For example, we need to make sure that, we are able to involve the people in your manufacturing space, and we are supporting domestic industries, like the textile sector. They need serious support. So that's the space that we need to ensure that we are able to fill, Mr. Ngumalo, as a country.
It's a mouthful there, Mr. Sibia, and I'll tell you this, I couldn't agree with you more on the many recommendations that you are proposing, especially in improving the broadcast media space. I think I agree with that one more than everything else that you have proposed. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully connect with you again on our other programs. We continue with the program after the break.
Transact with Nedbank and stand a chance to win a 5,000. To qualify, do any of the following. Tap or swipe your Nedbank card for purchases a minimum number of 10 times in 2 weeks, or send cash to any local cell phone number a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks, or withdraw cash using Nedbank cashback at till at any OK Foods outlet a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. It could be you, so start today. For more information, please visit Nedbank netbank.co.za, call or send us an email. See money differently. Netbank.
All right, so welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for staying with us. You're watching Nedbank Business Watch. Today we're joined by Nozibusiso Tembe, who's the treasury dealer at Nedbank Eswatini. We're focusing on Nedbank investment solutions today. We want to find out what investment options does Nedbank offer and how frequently do these investment products pay interest. Very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lou, and
Right.
good afternoon to your viewers.
Yeah, we're talking about Nedbank solutions. Why is it important for your client or the ordinary Liswati to have an investment with your bank?
So at Nedbank, our purpose is to use our financial expertise to do good. And we want to try and enable the everyday Liswati to have a healthy financial life, right? As such, we're fostering a culture where we are taking our money seriously. So this conversation is a conversation about how to do that.
Yeah, because I want you to enlighten us when we talk about investment. What really are we talking about? I understand there's short investments, there's long-term investments. Kindly, enlighten us, Guguti, at Nedbank, what you guys offer.
Okay, so when we talk about investments, we're talking about money that you're putting away outside of your transactional account in an account that earns you interest. So like you said, there's shorter term investments, there's longer term investments, and the longer term investments obviously give you better interest than the shorter term investments. In terms of our shorter term investments, we have accounts such as a savings account where you can put your money on the side to save. We have call accounts, which is quite similar to the savings account. And these two accounts offer a variable interest rate, which means when prime changes in Eswatini, the interest that you earn on these accounts also adjusts, whether it's upwards or downwards. And these accounts also offer your money on demand, which means that if you have an emergency, and you suddenly need to access your money, you can access it on the same day. So it's not locked away for a period of time. It's just in a different account.
Oh, it's convenient as well.
Quite convenient. We also have our notice deposit accounts. These are split into 32-day notice, 60-day notice, and 88-day notice. And with this one, the major difference is that if you do want to withdraw your funds for whatever emergency, you need to give notice before withdrawal. So let's just say you had a 32-day notice account and you gave notice today to withdraw either all or a portion of the funds. You can only receive, or you will only receive those funds in 32 days' time. So that's just the notice period, so that you're not dipping into those savings whenever you please. Yeah. So it's just to build a savings culture more than anything. This account also has a variable interest rate, so whenever there are changes in Eswatini Prime, the interest rate that's applicable on this account also adjusts either upwards or downwards.
Right. Before we get into the longer term investments, I just want to get clarity on the savings and the call accounts. You did say that they're accessible, so is it possible that I access them via my Nedbank app? And if I want to transfer money from my main account to the call account, is that possible? How do I access and how do I manage my investment account?
Yes, so you have a view of these accounts on your Nedbank app and you can do transfers when necessary.
All right, so let's move on to the longer term. I think that's the one you said it's more beneficial to have a longer term investment at Nedbank.
Yes.
Kindly take us through the longer term investment.
So our longer term investments obviously will give you a higher interest rates than your shorter term investments. But the difference here is that your money is then locked away for a predetermined period of time. So at inception, when you decide you want to enter into some of these investments, you tell us how long you want to keep the funds for. So I'll start with our first longer term investment, which is your fixed deposits. The periods here are 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or 24 months. So you select how long you want to lock the money away for. You take the lump sum and you put it in that account. The interest rate on a fixed deposit is fixed. So whatever interest we agree on at the beginning of the investment will remain that interest up until maturity of the investment. So if we agree on 5% per annum that you will earn on this investment, you will earn 5% up until the investment matures.
Okay. So what's the minimum amount that I need to open the investments account?
The minimum amount for these ones is 1,000.
Just only 1,000.
Just 1,000, and you can have a fixed deposit.
All right. So let's get into the negotiable certificate of deposits. It falls under the longer term investment. Kindly explain to us that as well.
So the negotiable certificate of deposit is actually quite an exciting product because it is a new product for Nedbank, but also it's a new product in the market. So Nedbank is the first bank to offer this product in the market. And just like the fixed deposit, it has fixed tenors as well. So you can choose 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or 24 months. The major difference with this one is that if during the period or during the life of the investment, you then run into liquidity issues and you need the cash, you can on-sell that instrument to another willing buyer. So if you know someone who's willing to buy the instrument from you, you can sell it to them and just let the bank know that's what you've done so that we can change our bookings internally, because the holder of the instrument at the end is the one who has rights to the money. You can also come back to Nedbank and sell it back to the bank. Say that I was holding this instrument 5 months into it, I need to sell it, how much would you buy it from me at? And the bank will give you a quote and you can sell it back. So that one's quite interesting because it adds vibrance to our secondary market in Eswatini, but it also allows our clients to have some kind of comfort that they can access their liquidity in need.
Okay, so let's talk about the floating rate term deposit. If Eswatini Prime decreases, does it affect the principal amount?
Yes, so that's the major. Let me maybe first explain what the floating rate term deposit is. The major difference between that and the fixed deposit is that you fix the money for a fixed period, but the rate that we quote you is not a fixed rate. So it's a rate linked to Eswatini Prime. If there are changes in Eswatini Prime, whether upwards or downwards, your investment then starts to accrue interest at the new relevant rate. But in terms of the principal amount, and this is quite important for clients to understand for their comfort, when there are changes in Eswatini Prime, the principal amount is not affected. So if you bought a 12-month floating rate term deposit, for example, and 5 months into the deposit, Eswatini Prime changes. The deposit, let's say, changes downwards. The deposit will reprice downwards, the interest rate will reprice downwards, but for the remaining period, which is the remaining 7 months. So what you've accrued in the first 5 months when Prime was higher is locked in. It only affects how much you are going to accrue going forward. So your principal amount is never touched.
It's never touched.
Yeah.
Right. So how frequently or how often do these products pay interest? The savings, fixed deposit, and the floating rate term deposit?
So with our call accounts, our savings accounts, our notice deposit accounts, interest is paid monthly. With our fixed deposit, you have options. You can choose a fixed deposit that pays interest monthly, one that pays quarterly, semi-annually, annually, or at maturity. So you have options, and this is important because we all have different needs. For example, with our pensioners, normally they receive a lump sum of money and they want to live off the interest for a while. So they'll get the lump sum, invest it in a fixed deposit, paying interest monthly. That way they know the principal amount is not touched, and what they're enjoying and living off on a month-to-month basis is the monthly interest payments.
So it's up to me, like
so it's
monthly, quarterly, semi-annually?
Absolutely.
But of course you do advise as the bank.
Yes, we're always there to advise, but at the end of the day,
It's
the
up to
decision
me.
is up to you.
All right. So how does a client decide which investment option is best suited for them?
So there's a few things that a client needs to look at when thinking about investments. The first is you need to understand your own cash flow needs. So if you have received a lump sum from somewhere and you know you won't need this lump sum on a daily basis, then you can take that lump sum and put it in a more fixed instrument so that you can earn higher yields and also not be tempted to touch it. But maybe if you are trying to save up and you want to add and accumulate your money over time, then maybe your shorter term instruments such as a call account or a current account are better suited for you. So you need to understand what your own cash flow requirements will look like and not invest money for a period longer than you are able to.
And if I have a change of heart and probably wanted to switch banks, am I able to withdraw? Do I need to give you the bank time, a warning? What's the procedure? What's the process?
So the hope is that you won't be switching banks. But in the event that you are, our fixed instruments, in as much as it's a contractual agreement between you and the bank that you will place the money for a certain period of time, if a need does arise and you need to withdraw it, it is possible to withdraw it. There's just a early redemption penalty, which is 2.5% of the interest that you have earned during the period.
All right. Just so it happens, I had a bad month and let's say I'm unable to deposit money on either of my investments account. Perhaps it extends to 3 months, for an example. What happens then?
So the investment accounts are your accounts. So the ones where you can top up, even if you don't top up for extended periods of time, the money you have is still yours and the account is still yours. So nothing, there will be no closure of accounts for that if you're not topping up.
Okay.
And then the fixed ones are obviously fixed, so you don't get to top up on those.
Okay. So what does a client do if they want to open this account? Can they call, do it over the phone, online, or they have to come to your premises?
So if a client wants to open this kind of account, they would go to their nearest branch and speak to a banker. The banker would then contact Treasury and find out from Treasury what rate we're willing to quote on that amount for that period of time, provided they've decided what kind of instrument they want to invest in. And then after that, the banker will then take them through the process of completing the forms for them to open their account. But if you are just curious about the investment, you can also still contact your nearest branch, or you can call Treasury on 3278-1145, and we'll be happy to assist.
Right. And of course, if they have any other more information to inquire on, they can contact Nedbank Eswatini on your social media platforms. Remind us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. You can contact us on all our social media platforms. And we'll always be willing to assist.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Dembe. Thank you for joining us. That's it for our Nedbank segment. If you do want more information, do contact them on their socials and also call them on their service center line. We're talking about investment, savings, a call account. So find out more from Nedbank Eswatini. Let's go for an ad break. Sabia Koramanje.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu vile sive sikhulume
think the importance of governance in business can never be overstated, and this is why the Industrial Development Company of Eswatini makes sure to handhold small and medium enterprises in that they support them everywhere that they go. The Chief Executive Officer, Feli Mabuza, said this whilst detailing some of the assistance they provide to small and medium enterprises in the country.
Advisor how to actually use your money. That advice is informed by our intelligence in the market, knowing the sectors, how they are performing, knowing the trends where these sectors are going. Because to mitigate your risk, you don't want to lose money. Because when you lose money with us, you must remember, we are not like a bank. We hold your hand and into perpetuity. As you can see in our products, it's the equity participation. If you need partners in your company, we are there to actually partner with you. And as partnership now, we are not going to demand anything apart from compliance with the laws and making sure you get financial reports, which will also assist you with the financial reports to see where your business is going. To advise you, would say, if you are doing farming, when is the right time to actually do the farming, who to use for the farming. If you are going into energy, solar energy, we bring consultants that will advise you what type of infrastructure you need for the energy and how much you are going to harvest, how you store that energy so that it sustains you, so that you don't lose money, because you could put solar power and find yourself still paying the same amount that you pay for electricity. So if you want to contain costs, you actually advise on how to do it.
Right, Mr. Mabuza there detailing some of the many things that they provide in terms of assistance to small and medium enterprises in the country. But the crux of the story is governance, and it is quite essential that small and medium enterprises just get that right, and therefore they can get all the assistance that they need, not just from IDC alone, I believe, Nelsiwe, but maybe, as they just mentioned, that it can never be overstated enough, the importance of governance. Maybe let's break it down for the aspiring entrepreneur, as well as the entrepreneurs, as to what it is when we talk about governance and why it is so essential.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Sifiso ngivusele nembukele ekhaya. Ngicabanga ukuthi nakukhulunywa ngegovernance kushiwo info leti njengekuthi you have to have a laid down framework yekuthi ibusiness yami mina itawusebenza kanjena. Uma ngabe sengiyendile iprofit kufanele ukuthi ngiyirecord ngente bo bookkeeping. Ungabuki nje governance ukuthi it's for giant companies la njengabo mhlawumbe la under bo business Eswatini, but even le company yakho, as the CEO has rightly said, ukuthi bayakusita kwekuthi ukhona nalokuba nalabo record keeping. We have seen ukuthi ERS has said now they are introducing kwekuthi labo soma business labancane kakhulu kungasabi njena ukuthi mhlambe sekufunena yayofuna accountant, but tendele lama records akho ekuthi wena usebente kanjani vele, so that batokhona kukusita ngetindzaba tabo tax. Lenzaba ye governance, it boils down to ensuring that you have all the necessary information kule business yakho, so that utokhona nekuthi this is the profit that I've made, nayileta usebenta mhlambe kuthenga for production and everything, this is my money that I'll use for running the business. So it's basically that laid down framework of how the business will work.
You listen to Mr. Mabuza there, you can tell the sense of confidence and conviction from his tone when he speaks about the support programs that they have for SMEs. Maybe to assess the viability of that and the truth in that, to be quite frank, Nelly, the access to finance, because this has been the thorn for a lot of SMEs. You engage with a lot of the young entrepreneurs, and they always talk about, access to finance being one of the biggest hurdles that they can't seem to, overcome. Does ITCE have success stories when it comes to, access to finance and perhaps other government parastatals?
Thank you so much, Sfiso. Ngike ngabuka i-SME diagnostic report yeminyaka wanga 2018 lebeyendiwa bo UN iyasho lokuthi noma ngabe ema SMEs mhlawumbe vele anawo lama accounts, about 84% of them have accounts in banks, but ukhanza lokwekuthi awagcini mhlawumbe aboleka le bhange ngoba lawo ma accounts utawukhanza ukuthi ibhalwe nje ukuthi isifiso ngumalo. So ema organizations noma ke tinkampani tahulumende lenjengabo IDC tikhonile kuwasita lamanye emaswati. I talked to the Eswatini National Agricultural Union labashito ukuthi yes, they are working with them, but ngibese ngiyamthola ke umlimi lo senhlangano bathi horticulture association lapho khona balima tibit, for they are saying ukuthi if you have the necessary documents, the business plans and everything that is required at IDC, iyakhona le nkampani yahulumende lena kukusita. Ngithena ngingena nje ekhasini labo ngabuka ukuthi wo bayasho lokwekuthi okay kuma SMEs sinawe ma loans lasuka kubo 10,000 i maximum gcine lapha bo 1.5 million. Sekusho ke ukuthi umbukeli noma lo esomabhizinisi lomncane sekangathintsana nabachumane nabo ukuthi engabe yena usitakala kanjani, but we have labakhona inhlangano, we have there's Gcina Dlamini who's also umuntu lomusha lolimako lo shito naye ukuthi yes, I've worked with IDC ngiyababona lokuthi bosomabhizinisi labancane bayabasita. Siyethemba ukuthi bosomabhizinisi labancane kule nkampani yahulumende le batawuphinze nakhona baye babuke lokwekuthi engabe basitakala kanjani ngoba solo indlela hulumende lenda ngato ukuthi somabhizinisi lomncane akasitakale.
Yeah, but the consensus being, governance. That's the most important thing that they've since, realized that a lot of businesses are failing at. So we urge all businesses to really take care of their bookkeeping, their reports, everything that they need when it comes to governance. And it's quite, helpful that even this NetBank powered, show, Nelly, talks quite a lot about access to finance and the many products that NetBank offers for businesses. So you can watch all the other episodes that we've had, as well as today, quite a lot of investment opportunities, access to finance opportunities with NetBank Eswatini. So yeah, I think that was quite essential as well to note. So let's go for a net break. We look at the financial markets of the day with Nozibusiso Dembe, Treasury Dealer with NetBank Eswatini after the break.
Transact with NetBank and stand a chance to win a 5,000 Emalangeni Trolley Dash. To qualify, do any of the following. Tap or swipe your NetBank card for purchases a minimum number of 10 times in 2 weeks. Or send cash to any local cell phone number and minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. Or withdraw cash using NetBank Cashback at Till at any OK Foods outlet a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. It could be you, so start today. For more information, please visit netbank.co.nz, call or send us an email. See money differently. NetBank.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sivile sive sitikhulume.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with NetBank Private Clients.
Welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. This is I'm joined by Treasury dealer at Nedbank Eswatini, Nozibusiso Dembe. Welcome again. I've been tracking the dollar and last I checked it was trading at 18 Malangin against Lilangani. How are the currency is performing today?
Thank you, Lulu. Yes, at the moment, the dollar against the SZL is trading at 18.3582. The pound against the SZL is trading at 23.1332, and the euro against the SZL is trading at 19.8819.
Okay.
So we've seen quite a bit of rand strength in the past week. And this is off the back of U.S. data that came out indicating that U.S. unemployment benefit claims have increased to the highest they've been in 8 months. So the rand then gained strength on the back of U.S. dollar weakness. But what we are observing now is that the rand is starting to lose that strength. And this is now because of unemployment data that came out of South Africa, which came out quite high at 32.9%, which is the unemployment rate at the moment. And this is the second high in a row, one. And then two, it's very close to a record high of 35.3%, which was experienced during COVID in 2021. So there's already a bit of reluctance in the market around that, and the rand is starting to lose strength.
All right. So is there any other data that we can expect that can affect the markets today?
Yes. So later today, we're expecting U.S. inflation data to be published, and the entire market is anticipating that data because it's going to indicate how soon the Fed is likely to cut interest rates. And with the U.S. being an economic powerhouse, the other countries and other economies then also follow once they've made a decision. So that's going to be interesting, and it's going to affect markets.
Yeah, all right. Let's move on to getting a closer look at commodities. I saw that oil prices slipped on Wednesday as International Energy Agency data showed demand in developed countries. How are the commodities performing today?
So commodities today, I'll start with oil, is trading at $82.9 per barrel. So oil prices did drop in the past couple of weeks after the U.S. announced that their stockpile of Brent crude oil is increasing. So then the oil prices then dropped. But the market is a bit concerned. As you can see, the oil price is starting to increase slightly. The market is a bit concerned about wildfire season starting in Canada. And that'll affect the supply of Brent crude coming from Canada and start to increase the price. So the market is starting to price that in at the moment. But in terms of gold is currently trading at $2,362.33 per ounce. Gold price has remained quite steady for a while now. It moved slightly higher last week after the U.S. unemployment figures came out, because that indicates that the economy in the U.S. is a bit slow. Slow economy will probably increase bets for interest rate cuts and then lower yields in the U.S. So what happens when yields in the U.S. are lower? The market then tends to gravitate towards investment or holding gold instead.
All right, let's quickly give us an overview of indexes. Last I checked this morning, they're performing quite well. What does it look like this afternoon?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So we have our S&P 500, our FTSE 100, and our JSE All Share Index. And all of them are performing very well at the moment, which is good for the US, for UK, for South Africa. And I think an interesting thing to note is that the JSE All Share Index broke above 79,000 points this morning. So that's good news for companies in South Africa, and hopefully they'll benefit from that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nozi, for that update. Let's quickly take a break. We'll come back and close up the show with Sfiso.
Transact with Nedbank and stand a chance to win a 5,000 Emalangeni Trolley Dash. To qualify, do any of the following. Tap or swipe your Nedbank card for purchases a minimum number of 10 times in 2 weeks. Or send cash to any local cell phone number a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. Or withdraw cash using Nedbank Cashback at Till at any OK Foods outlet a minimum number of 5 times in 2 weeks. It could be you, so start today. For more information, please visit nedbank.co.nz, call or send us an email. See money differently. Nedbank.
Ujala masada mahle kunakho lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sivile sive sithi khulumeni.
And that's it for this week's episode for Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for joining us. And of course, you will visit a Nedbank Service Center, Vagabandi, and my investment plans out. There's quite a lot of accounts that you can open, such as the savings, the call account, and many other accounts. So do contact them to get more information.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon and a good evening. Bye-bye.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.